Hello and welcome to the video tutorial on research papers. This is a really important unit that you will use in typing papers for high school and also for college. Probably the most important lesson that you will learn in this class, because as you move on in your studies, your teachers are going to require research papers, and we're going to learn a really great, easy way to document your sources as you're writing a paper. So first of all, we have our blank screen of Word. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And once again, it's your assignment name, your initials. Next, I need to add a header at the top of my page. So I'm going to go into Insert, Header. But for a research paper, I'm not going to use the 3-column built-in header that we've been doing on our assignments before this one. We're going to do a header just specific to research papers. So for that, you need to go to Edit Header. And for the header on a research paper, you want your last name, a space, and the page number all on the upper right corner of your pages. So I have a left-aligned insertion point right now. If I click this tool here, that gives me the option to put in an alignment tab. I want that to be at the right. Then I can go ahead and type in my last name and a space, and then I want the page number. But if I just type in page 1 here, every single page of my research paper is going to say Brunson 1, which is not going to be cool if my research paper is more than 1 page long. So instead of typing in the number, you're going to want to use your page number tool here, and you want to put it in the current position, and you just want a plain number. And by putting in that code, that ensures that your page number is going to change in relation to what page you are on. I want every text, all text in my research paper to be in a serif font or a Times New Roman type of font. If I zoom in on this default font that I have, this is what we call a sans serif font. So if you notice, there's no little flags or tails on any of the letters. This type of font is great for titles or bigger text, but really difficult when you're reading a lot of information. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, go to my Home tab, and instead of Calibri, I'm going to change that to Times New Roman. And instead of 11, for research papers, that needs to be 12. So notice the difference on my serif font. There's little flags on the 1, little flags and tails and feet on all of the letters, and it just helps your eye go from one place to the next a lot easier when you're reading a lot. Alright, so I'm done with my header. I can go back to Header Footer Tools tab to get out, or I can just double click down in my document. All research papers need to be double spaced. And if you remember from the last lesson, we talked about how Word puts in an extra space every time you hit enter. So before you start typing, you're going to need to change 2 things in your line spacing options. First, you want to change it to double space, then you want to go back and change it to remove space after paragraph. That will make it so that everything is evenly spaced all the way through your paper. And then I need to type my opener before I get into my document. So that's just going to contain my name. Well, I need to change my body to Times New Roman. Okay. Type my name, my teacher's name. We're going to pretend we have a class from Mr. Winters. This is a USU class, so English 1010, and then we need our date. You can type the date, or you can go to Insert, Date and Time, and make sure you choose this format, month, day, comma, year. And enter again. Next, I need the title of my paper, which is always centered. So I go back to Home, Center Align, and the title of this paper is Can You Find Me Now? Okay, after my title's on, I'm going to change my alignment back to left, and I'm going to paste in my text because I know you don't want to watch me type this whole thing. Notice as we get more pages, our header is automatically changing our page number for us. Okay, so as you know, when you're creating a research paper, you have to give the proper credit to your sources. I did not make all this stuff up that I typed. This didn't come from my own brain. I used some other sources to get the information, and so I need to credit those sources. So the first credit that I need to give is going to be here in the second paragraph, right after this word baseline. So this information right here about surveyors I got from an article that I read in a magazine. So I need to give proper credit here in the document. So I'm going to click right in between the last letter and the period and hit space. Make sure that your citation is going before your period. You don't want it after, so you want to click right before. Then we're going to be using the References tab a lot as we do these research papers. So you're going to click References. The first thing you're going to want to check is your style here. Different teachers and different classes require that you document in different styles. The most common one that you will use in high school and college is MLA. That's going to be the majority of your English papers, history papers, and even most science. The APA edition that you see is the style required by math and some upper division science. So as you're taking your classes, make sure that you know which documentation style your teacher requires. For this paper, we're going to use the MLA 6th edition, so I make sure that's selected. And then I'm just going to choose Insert Citation, and I want to add a new source. Now that's going to open up the Create Source window. Okay, for type of source, we have a bunch of different options: books, journal articles, article in a periodical. A periodical is a magazine that comes out on a regular basis. And as you scroll down, there are a lot of different sources. You could have an interview with somebody, so on. But this one I know was an article in a periodical, so I'm choosing that source. Then depending on which source you choose, it's going to give you different windows to fill in. You may or may not have all the information to fill in all of the fields. Don't worry about that. Just use what you have and provide as much information as you can. So first, I have my author. Now when I click on that, it gives me an example of how I need to enter the author. I want to do last name, comma, first name, and if I have more than one author, I need to separate those with a semicolon. For this, I just have one author, and her last name is James. First name is Malia. Corporate author would be if it was published by NASA or some kind of a company instead of a person. But this is a real person, so I'm leaving that box unchecked. The title of my article is How Surveyors Measure and Calculate Angles. Then I can just hit the Tab key to go from field to field. Then I put in the name of the periodical or magazine where I found this article. It was published in 2012, March. I don't have a day. Most periodicals are just published by the month. And then the pages that I read were 30 to 48, and that's where I got the information. Once I have that completed, I'm going to click OK. And when I come back to my document, notice that it's popped in the last name of the author. Now, most teachers in MLA require that you put the page numbers right in your citation. So here in the body of my paper, I need my page number. So I'm just going to click on that reference, and then I get a box with a drop down, and I'm going to edit the citation. And I want to add some text that includes the page numbers. So here I'm just going to type 30 to 48, and then OK. And then when I come back, my page numbers are showing up. Okay, the next change that I need to make to this document is I need to add a footnote. Footnotes are used as a way to just give some additional information to your reader that you don't necessarily need in the body of your text. So right here after the first paragraph, I want to add a little footnote. Now, our citation went before the period. Your footnote's going to go after, so you just make sure you're blinking at the end of the sentence. I'm still on my References tab, and I'm going to choose Insert Footnote. Notice when I do that, it puts a little superscript 1 right here because it's the first footnote in the paper. It also puts in a line and a footnote down here. So what the footnote's going to do is just alert the reader that, hey, if you want to read more about this, see the bottom of the page, and there'll be some more information. So I'm going to type just right here what my footnote's saying. Okay. Now you can probably notice that as I type that, the font isn't right and the spacing isn't double like it needs to be. So after I get it typed, I just need to be somewhere on it and right click, and I'm going to go to Style. And then here I'm going to click Modify. It's defaulted to Calibri 10. I need to change that to Times New Roman 12 so it matches the rest of my document. And then here is my spacing. I'm going to change that to double. And then OK. And apply. When I come back, that matches a little bit better. Now, within this footnote, I have a citation. I need to reference Cordoba and Sarkis so that my reader knows where I got that information. So I'm going to click before the period and space. On my References tab, I'm going to insert a citation. Now, if I needed to cite Malia Janes again, I could just click here and it would pop that in. But this is a new additional source, so I'm going to choose Add New Source. So this source is a book. And the author, I have 2 of them, so I've got to do last name, comma, and then I'm using a semicolon to separate my 2 names. I type the title of my book. Oh, misspelled word. It's really important to make sure that you've typed in your information correctly for your sources, because the spell check will not look through these. Plus, there are a lot of words that just don't regularly appear in the dictionary, so you've got to go through and make sure you've got those all right. Okay, so I have my information in from my book, and I click OK. And then it's popping in Cordoba and Sarkis. Now in this sentence here, it's redundant, meaning that I have the same information twice. Part of my sentence includes the name of the authors, and my citation also includes the names. I don't need those to appear twice. So here, all I need in these parentheses is the page number. Okay, I have one more citation in this paper, and it's going to go right here in my second to last paragraph. So I'm going to click before the period and space. Make sure I have my References tab pulled up, insert citation, Once again, I could put in either of these if I needed to, but this is a new source. And this source is a web page or website. Okay, sometimes on websites you're not going to see an author, sometimes you will. In this case, I do have an author, Gregory B. Sanders. The name of the web page, okay, and I have more information, but I don't have the fields here. I have a production company that sponsors this web page that I want to include on here, but I don't have a field for that. So if I come down here and choose Show Up Bibliography Fields, that expands those out and gives me a lot more options. So here I have my production company, which is Course Technology. And then I'm going to skip year, month, and day. Most website references don't have a day that they were actually created, but you do need to document when you accessed or when you visited that web page. So this was 2012, February 27th. Okay, then the URL is the web address where I found that information, and notice down here they give you an example. The HTTP is just a protocol used on the web, so just go ahead and type that in. And you're going to type in your web address. If you have a website with a really, really long web address, as some do, you can just go right to Google or to your browser and copy paste that into this window so you're not having to type so much. Okay, so I have everything for that one. I'm going to click OK, and then it's going to pop in my citation here. I need to make some changes to this citation. Instead of the author appearing, because it's redundant once again, we have his name here. I'm going to suppress the author. So I'm going to edit the citation, suppress the author, and then click OK. And by doing that, it defaults it to the actual name of the website. Okay, I have all of my citations documented. Now the last thing that I need to do in my paper is include a works cited page. I have room here for a works cited page, but I never want to put it on the same page as my paper. I need a fresh new page to start my works cited. And to do that, I need to insert a hard page break. I'm going to hold Control down on my keyboard and hit Enter. That forces a page 3. Then I'm going to go back to my Home tab and center the title, Works Cited. And then change my justification back to left. On my References tab, I have an option for bibliography. Word has some pre-packaged bibliography and works cited formats, but they'll use colored fonts, larger fonts that don't match your paper. Just really not acceptable for most papers. So I'm going to choose the Insert Bibliography option, and that's just going to pop in my plain text. Now most of the time this will not match the text of your paper, so I'm going to select that, go back to Home, and change to Times New Roman. So pretty nice. It's underlined things, put the periods in where I need them to be, automatically put in my hanging indent. So it just saves you a lot of the guesswork on how to properly format those references. Now that I'm all done, I'm going to save this again. Now I copy pasted in my text and it was already correctly typed, but because you will be typing one research paper for your assignment, you are most likely going to make some spelling mistakes, and you'll need to go in and proofread and spell check. Let's just misspell a word. So misspelled words are going to automatically be underlined in red. The easiest way to spell check is you just come through and right click, and it will give you some options. So spell check your whole document and then go through and read it carefully. Check your citations, check your works cited, make sure that everything is correct. Oh, one last thing is this is not double spaced. And I need it to be that way so it matches everything else. So proofread, spell check, check all your fonts and make sure they match. Your works cited, your header, your footnote. Oftentimes those will come in as Calibri instead of the Times New Roman. So go through and check all those, make sure that they're properly formatted. And that concludes the video tutorial on research papers. Have fun typing.